How's it going, YouTubers? This is IronfistLMS, once again coming to you from the LMS livestream over at Twitch TV. Now, what I've got for you guys today is a brand new and updated upgrade and certification guide for your Reaver aircraft in Planetside 2. Now, I've spent a lot of time testing all this stuff out, so I wanted to pass down my recommended certifications and upgrades, as well as a rough build order for you guys so that you can be most effective in the air. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, the first certification I'm going to talk to you guys about today is one of the most important in the current Planetside 2 metagame. Now, as we all know as pilots, there is a lot of AA, especially lock-on missiles from other aircraft. So my most recommended certification you can buy is to pick up the decoy flares for your Reaver as soon as possible. Now, the first level of this is 100 cert points, and that allows you to have a flare every 45 seconds. So I suggest getting that as early as possible, and then maxing out the cooldown reduction a bit later on when you have more cert points to spend. Now, personally, I hated spending my cert points on decoy flares, but with the sheer amount of other pilots using air-to-air missiles, it was absolutely essential. So go ahead and get those flares ASAP. Now, the choice for the defense slot was a fairly easy one for me. I went straight into the Composite Armor. Now, the Composite Armor, as we all know, reduces the damage from flak projectiles such as AMXs or wall turrets, as well as small arms fire from infantry. So it's well worth picking up just to improve the overall survivability of your Reaver. Now, if you know that you want to focus on air-to-air dogfighting, you may well want to invest in the Vehicle Stealth upgrade. Now, what this does is it actually hides you from enemy players' radar and makes it a lot harder for enemy pilots to track you while you're dogfighting. So moving on to the performance and airframe slot, this is something that I've had a lot of questions about since the release of Planetside 2. Now, I've spent a whole bunch of time and cert points in thoroughly testing this out for you guys to make sure that I'm really giving you the best advice. Now, what I found that in combination with the Reaver's high speed, if you add the high speed airframe, it really plays into the Reaver's advantages. Now, with the high speed airframe, it actually allows you to straight up outrun air-to-air missile locks. So you've got a scythe chasing behind you, he's got you locked on with missiles, you can actually outrun that missile when you have it upgraded to a 3-3 level, which is a huge bonus considering how many people are using them right now. Now, what it also allows you to do is chase down and catch up with enemy aircraft a lot faster and stops them getting away from you, which I'm sure a lot of you have experienced in-game. Now, this information may come as a bit of a surprise to you guys, but believe you me, I've tested this out thoroughly in-game. Now, the dogfighting airframe really doesn't make too much of a difference. It sounds good on the tin, but it doesn't make that much of a difference to be worth spending the cert points on and losing the speed bonus that you get with the high-speed frame. Same goes for the hover stability. The vertical thrust boost that it gives you is really not all that big, and it's more useful having the speed boost. Now, I'm going to do a quick test to show you guys the difference in flight speeds, this time just flying with the space bar, just W in space. As you can see, you get an extra 30 to 35 kph using the high-speed airframe maxed out on 3-3, which is really useful for chasing down enemy aircraft. Now, I'm going to do the same thing again, this time tapping the afterburner. Again, as you can see, with the high-speed airframe, you can keep it at a solid sort of 360, 350 kph, which is more than enough to straight up outrun air-to-air missiles. Now, moving on to the weapon upgrades that you can purchase for your Reaver, this really hasn't changed all that much since beta, to be honest. The machine gun upgrade that I suggest you get is the Vortec Rotary cannon, and while it was nerfed against aircraft in a previous patch, it is still very effective and is far better than the standard M20 Mustang. Now, I recommend buying this Vortec cannon with standard cert points, since you can purchase it for 250 cert points as opposed to 500 station cash. Now, as standard, the Vortec suffers from a couple of problems. The first one being ammo capacity. It absolutely flies through ammo, and you're going to find yourself running out of ammo so fast and constantly going back to an ammo tower. So once you purchase the Vortec, you're definitely worth putting at least sort of 4 or 5 points into the maximum ammo capacity, which gets you up to about 300-325 capacity overall. Now the first 4 or 5 levels can be done fairly cheaply before it starts to get ridiculously expensive and start eating your cert points. Now personally, I don't use any zoom or optics on this gun. I prefer it without. But if you feel you do need a zoom or an optics sight in order to help you aim a bit better, you can go ahead and put your certs into it. It all comes down to personal choice here. But do bear in mind that the first level of optic zoom costs only 1 cert point, so you can pick that up and play around with the two and decide which one is better for you. Lastly, I also recommend getting the magazine size increase. Now this is really going to help you out in air-to-air combat. Each level of this actually increases your magazine size by 3 rounds, and when you max it out 5.5, it actually increases the size by 15 rounds, which is almost a 70% increase from default. So it's well worth getting. Now for the secondary weapon slot, this is probably the most controversial. I purchased the Breaker rocket pods. Now the Breaker rocket pods right now are real good. They destroy infantry vehicles and other aircraft if you can hit them during dogfighting. I purchased them with 700 station cash, but you can also purchase them with 1,000 cert points. So you're going to have to really grind those cert points if you want to avoid getting your credit card out. Now the Breaker rockets as default have a couple of problems with them. The first one being is that they don't have very much ammo on them at all. I think you get something stupid like 24 rockets when you first buy them, which run out almost instantly, and you're going to find yourself going backwards and forwards to the air tower to get ammo. So of course I recommend absolutely maxing out the ammo capacity upgrades. You can get the first 3 or 4 levels really cheaply, spending a total I think 30-40 certs, and you definitely want to do that and obviously max it out later when you've got more cert points to spend. But it really does improve your efficiency on killing things and your score per hour. Now lastly, I'm going to talk about the optics that you can get for the Breaker rockets. Now I haven't actually been using these at all during the beta, and I only just picked them up when an outfit mate actually recommended them to me, and boy did I realize what I had been missing out on for the past couple of months. They are unbelievably good. Now there's 2 types. You've got the infrared scope and you've got the thermal scope. Both of them are very good. Both of them can see through, explosions, making it easier to hit vehicles, and both of them can pick out infantry in low light conditions and through scenery. The one big difference between the two is the infrared costs 50 certs and the thermal costs 200 certs. So, it really comes down to personal preference. I actually prefer the thermal simply because it doesn't give everything a huge green tint, which is a lot easier on the eyes, and I think it's a bit easier to actually pick out infantry and stuff with the thermal scope. But other people's opinions may vary. Now it's also worth noting that the thermal scope, according to the description, has a shorter render range. Now I really haven't noticed it all that much in game, to be honest with you, and I suggest you try out both and see which one works easier for you. Now I'm going to show you guys a couple of flight clips. The first one featuring the thermal scope. As you can see, it gives everything a sort of greyish contrast tint, and it lights up each and every enemy, vehicles or infantry, with a huge yellow glow. So it makes them really easy to pick out in these low light conditions, especially when they're hiding under buildings and stuff. Now the second clip is using the infrared scope, which gives everything a big green tint. It makes you feel like you're in, I don't know, an alien film or something. But it does the same job. It lights up enemies and vehicles, makes them easier to see in lower light conditions. It's really up to you guys to try both and see which one is better for you. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this guide, and don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I also welcome any sort of comment, feedback or suggestions that people might have in order to help me produce better content in the future. So until next time, guys, take it easy and have a good one.